Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a nice holiday, lots of ham and turkey, and I hope you're ready to get back to work. So, we're going to look at Hitler and his rise till about 1924. Who was this guy, Adolf Hitler, that you've heard so much about? In class, we sort of talked about it. We began to talk about it. I'm just going to give you a little reminder of the man we're dealing with. And again, I can't say this enough. This is one of these transformative figures in history that almost everyone in our class and our school, almost everyone's life has been affected by this one human being. He really is one of the most transformative figures in all of history, especially in the 20th century. So Hitler would have been 139 years old this week. He was born on April 20th in a little tiny village called Braunau on the Inn. Braunau on the Inn borders Germany, but it's actually in Austria. Remember that. Hitler was not German. He was Austrian. He was one of 6 children. However, 4 died. His mother was overprotective of him, and his surviving sibling, who's Paula, perhaps resented him a little bit because he was clearly a mama's boy. Clara doted on him, but his father, not so much. His father was much, much older. Remember, his father was 52 years old when Hitler was born. He could have been his grandfather, easily. He didn't like his son. His son he felt, wanted to be an artist. His father, Adolf's father, Alois, wanted him to be a customs official like he was, and he just felt the boy wasn't going anywhere. So he was very hard on him. He physically hit him many, many times, and you have this young man who becomes very defiant. You can see it if you look at the pictures of Hitler in school. It's just this defiant pose he strikes all the time. And he didn't have many friends, and people who knew him said that he was just always had a chip on his shoulder. When his father died, he was only 14 years old, 13, 14 years old. It didn't really affect him. But when his mother died, he was destroyed. The doctor who attended the death of his mother reported that he's never seen somebody so destroyed by grief. Also, he wanted to become an artist, so he left for Vienna and was rejected from art school 2 times because, as the art teachers had said to him, maybe architecture's your thing because you cannot render the human form. Except one person, and that one person, I'm sure you can guess who he's able to draw: himself. And ladies and gentlemen, the word of the day is narcissist. So this young failed art student basically would have gone nowhere in his life. Nothing. He would have been just, would be a destitute statistic at this point. No one would have known his name. However, 1914, Archduke Ferdinand was shot and killed along with his wife, and that triggered, of course, as you know from class, the First World War. Hitler had moved from Vienna because he did get a small inheritance upon his 21st birthday. He moved to Vienna, and of course, when this news came out, he was so excited to fight for Germany. Even though he wasn't German, he felt the German blood, as he would later say, and he, of course, answered the call. So he went right up, enlisted in the army, and spent 4 years in the trenches of on the Western Front, and he was a dispatch rider. He had some very close calls. So no matter what you think of Adolf Hitler, the person or the dictator or the monster that he is, he was a very good soldier. He was decorated twice. He was also wounded twice. The last time he was wounded, he was in Passwalk Hospital when he heard the news that Germany had surrendered. And when his mother died, as I said, he was completely destroyed by grief. Excuse me, this was also the second time he was destroyed by grief. It really hit him. And when he returned to Munich, when he returned to his new city of Munich, Germany, he saw his beloved Germany in chaos. The Versailles Treaty had robbed Germany of its dignity, of its army, of its military capabilities, of its economy, and he was in despair, as were so many thousands of Germans. But he was still working for the army at this point. And so he had the task of going to investigate political parties. You see, the German New Democracy that had just been formed with the Versailles Treaty was so paranoid about political groups rising up and taking over that they sent these ex-World War I soldiers, these army guys, out to listen and to hear if there's any talk of revolution. So one of the parties that Hitler came across in a beer hall, and that's where all political parties met at that time, was in beer hall, and it was blue with smoke. You can just imagine everyone's smoking, everyone's drinking. Well, one of the parties was called the National Socialist Deutsche Arbeit Party, or the Nazi Party, and he heard them and he actually liked their message. He was one of the speakers early in 1919, 1920, and they liked him too and asked him to join. So when he was asked to speak in one of these smoky beer halls with everyone's drinking beers, and remember, he didn't smoke and he didn't drink, so he didn't found it very gross in there. He didn't like it. But when he got up, he found something that he said later in his autobiography, Mein Kampf. He basically said, I knew I had it all along, but it was realized, this ability to speak in almost electrifying nature. And so speech after speech, he actually starts attracting people to these beer halls. First it's a few people come, and then it's 100, then it's 400, then it's 1,000, and he has to keep increasing the venue because, of course, people are very much attracted. His message is very simple. Versailles Treaty is awful. The Jews are to blame. We need to overturn this democracy, and we need to have a strong man, aka Adolf Hitler, to lead Germany, and we need to reclaim its pride, its wealth, and its military. So the way he said it, though, was so special. People, if you read his speech, you'd say this is very simplistic, but it really tugged at many of the heartstrings of Germany, of the Germans at the time. And so people really fed into this. They really believed in what he was saying. It's the way he said it. And it's interesting, too, in many, many biographies that are written, they all come up with the same conclusion, that if you talk to Hitler one-on-one, you would not be very much impressed. He was actually boring. One-on-one, there was nothing there. He would drone on about opera or the Jews or about Germany or what, and you'd fall asleep. You'd have to actually walk away. It was awful because he could go on for hours. But if you get him in front of a crowd, he was electrifying. And everyone said that. He was immediately just had your attention. And the power of his words. It's interesting too, if there was 400 people or 40,000 people, it didn't matter. Everyone in that audience felt that he was talking directly to them. And when he met your gaze and everyone in that audience felt that he was looking at them, it was like he was looking inside you. It's a very rare gift. And unfortunately, Hitler had it to devastating consequences. So he becomes a local celebrity. He rises up, becomes the undisputed leader of this new Nazi party, and he gets cocky because in 1923, as you've already learned, Germany is faced with an economic calamity. It's called hyperinflation. The economy goes to pieces. To fix the problem, Germany prints money, which you should never do, and of course the currency becomes worthless. You've seen the pictures before of kids playing with blocks of money. He sees this as the time. So him and his Nazi party decide they're going to take over Germany and create a new world and create a new system of government. So Hitler comes in to one of these beer halls in 1923. He shoots the roof and he says, "Join me in this cause. We are going to take over Germany." And he actually marches through the streets of Munich. Well, it doesn't go his way. The police are called out. Everything goes to pieces. The Nazis run away. And Hitler is, of course, captured. He is put into prison for 9 months, and he feels like it's all over for him. However, unfortunately for the world, his career is just beginning. In prison, he writes his famous work called Mein Kampf, and he emerges from prison stronger. He unifies the party, and in the late 20s, especially when the 1929 stock market crash and the Depression hits, he is able to gain support and take power in the 1930s. Well, we'll get to that tomorrow. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's just Hitler, the early years. Again, don't panic, study hard, and be well.